My name is Ava. I am 27 years old and I live in the charming city of Savannah, Georgia. It is a place where time seems to slow down, a quiet and peaceful city nestled near the coast. I love the ancient oak trees draped in Spanish moss, the slow-moving streets, and the gentle flow of the river. I work as a graphic designer in a small downtown office. My days are spent creating posters and flyers, bringing ideas to life on a screen. The people I work with are kind, and I enjoy my routine. I start my mornings with a warm cup of coffee and spend most of the day at my computer, lost in colors and shapes. I truly enjoy this quiet life. I have a boyfriend named Liam. We have been together for 4 years. Our story began at a backyard barbecue hosted by a mutual friend. He told a funny story that made me laugh until my sides hurt. We started talking more after that night, and soon we were inseparable. Liam works in sales for a travel company, a job that keeps him busy. He speaks to countless people every day and sometimes travels to other cities for work. He does not live with me, but he often stays over at my apartment. We would cook dinner together, watch movies on the couch, and share the details of our day. Sometimes he would surprise me with a bouquet of my favorite flowers. I felt a deep sense of happiness whenever he was near me. Liam often spoke about our future. He would paint a picture for me with his words. "One day," he'd say, "we'll move into a house with a big backyard and get a dog." He talked about traveling the world with me and maybe, one day, starting a family. I believed every word. I thought what we had was strong, built on a foundation of love and trust. I felt incredibly lucky. But everything I believed in shattered on a Friday night. I was washing the dishes when my phone rang. It was Chloe, my best friend since high school. Her voice was low and hesitant. She asked if we could talk. I said yes, of course. Then she told me she had seen Liam the day before. I asked her where. She said she saw him at the Riverwalk Cafe, a scenic spot near the water. I didn't think much of it at first, but then she added that he was with another woman. A cold feeling washed over me. I asked her what she meant. Chloe explained that Liam and the woman were sitting very close, and he was holding her hand across the table. I asked if she was absolutely sure it was him. She said yes, without a doubt. She saw his face clearly. She didn't sound angry or malicious. She sounded heartbroken for me. After the call ended, I sat down, my legs too weak to hold me. I felt confused, my mind racing to find an explanation. I told myself that maybe Chloe had made a mistake. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding. Maybe Liam had a perfectly good reason. I tried desperately to convince myself it wasn't true. That night, sleep was impossible. I stared at the ceiling, replaying Chloe's words. I thought about Liam's message from the day before. He had said he was stuck in a long meeting and would call me later. He never did. A knot of nervousness tightened in my stomach. My heart felt heavy, like a stone in my chest. The next evening, Liam came over. He brought pizza, my favorite kind. He kissed me and smiled, asking how my day was. I managed to say it was fine. He launched into a story about his work, talking about a new client he had signed. He laughed, and I offered a weak smile in return, but I felt a strange distance between us. I looked at him and said I needed to ask him something. He said, "Of course." I took a deep breath and asked if he was at the Riverwalk Cafe yesterday. His smile faded. He looked at me for a moment, then his eyes darted away. He admitted that yes, he was. I asked if he was with someone. He said yes again. He told me the woman's name was Sophia and that she was a new colleague. My voice was shaking when I asked the final question. Were you holding her hand? He didn't answer right away. Then, quietly, he said yes. I felt like all the air had been sucked out of the room. The pain in my chest was sharp and real. I stood up and walked to the window. Outside, life went on. Cars passed by, people walked their dogs. The world looked so normal, but my world had just been turned upside down. I turned to him and asked why. I asked why he would do that to us. He said he didn't know. He mumbled that they started talking at work and he liked her, but that he still cared about me. He said he was scared and didn't want to hurt me. But the damage was already done. I was hurt. I told him he had lied to me. He insisted he didn't plan for it to happen, that it just happened. I didn't know what to say. A profound exhaustion washed over me. I sat back down on the couch and told him I needed time to think. He simply said, "Okay," and left. He walked out the door and I was completely alone. The apartment was deafeningly quiet that night. I cried. I cried for a long, long time. I looked at the photos of us on the wall, filled with happy memories. I asked myself if any of it had been real. The next morning, Chloe came to my apartment. She brought coffee and donuts, sitting beside me on the couch and pulling me into a hug. She told me I didn't have to decide anything right away. She encouraged me to just rest and take my time. I thanked her, feeling a surge of gratitude for her friendship. That weekend, I stayed home. I scrolled through old messages from Liam. I thought about the trips we had taken together, the way he held my hand when I was scared, the way his presence made me feel safe. Now I felt utterly lost. I picked up my notebook and started writing. I wrote about everything I was feeling. I wrote about the betrayal, the confusion, and the deep pain. I wrote letters to Liam that I knew I would never send, filling pages with questions that had no answers. Each day was a struggle, but I forced myself to get up. I went to work. I talked to Chloe. I took short, slow walks by the river, watching the water and trying to find a moment of calm. One night, I looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were red and swollen from crying. But I saw something else in my reflection, too. I saw a woman who was still standing. I was exhausted, but I was still here. I told myself that I had done nothing wrong. I gave love. I gave trust. I didn't deserve this pain. The next day, I began to clean my apartment. I packed away the gifts Liam had given me into a box. I turned off my phone. I needed space. I needed time to hear my own thoughts. That night, as I lay in bed, I whispered to myself, "I will be okay. I will find peace again." Days turned into a week, but the pain lingered. I went to work, created designs, and smiled at people. But inside, I felt like I was made of glass, ready to shatter. I still thought about Liam. I still remembered his voice, his laugh, his promises. The same questions haunted me. Did he ever really love me? Was I not enough for him? Why did he choose someone else? At night, sleep was a luxury I couldn't afford. I would lie awake, listening to the clock tick, each second stretching into an eternity. I cried when I was alone. It felt like my heart had a physical hole in it. My chest ached in a way I couldn't explain. I missed him, but my grief was mixed with a simmering anger. I had trusted him completely, and now I didn't know what to believe in anymore. My best friend Chloe was my anchor. She called me every day. She brought over food, soup, fruit, and chocolate. She would sit with me while I cried, listening patiently when I needed to talk. Sometimes I said nothing at all, and she just sat beside me in comfortable silence. She reminded me that healing takes time, that I wasn't weak for feeling this way. She told me I was strong for facing the truth. One day, I opened my journal again. This time, I wrote about who I was before Liam. I wrote about the things I loved to do. I remembered how I used to take long walks in the park, losing myself for hours. I used to read stacks of books from the library. I loved painting and listening to music. I had forgotten about these parts of myself while I was with Liam. I had given him all my time, all my heart. Now I wanted to remember the person I was before him. I also started thinking about what I truly wanted from love. I wanted honesty. I wanted someone who made me feel secure. I wanted someone who respected me. I wanted someone who would choose me every single day, not just when it was convenient. I wrote these things down in a list. I read it over and over again. A week later, Liam called. Seeing his name on my phone screen made my stomach twist into a knot. I didn't answer. He called again the next day. On the third day, he sent a message. It said he missed me, that he wanted to talk, that he wanted to meet. I didn't know what to do. I called Chloe and asked for her advice. She told me the choice was mine alone. She asked me to be honest with myself. Did I still trust him? Could I ever feel safe with him again? I thought about it all night. The next morning, I sent Liam a message. I agreed to meet him in the park near the river. The park was quiet, and a soft wind rustled the leaves. I sat on a bench and waited. Liam arrived a few minutes later. He looked nervous. He sat down beside me, leaving a small space between us. For a moment, we sat in silence. Then he spoke. "Ava, I'm so sorry." I looked at him but said nothing. He continued, "I made a terrible mistake. I hurt you. I was stupid. I didn't know what I had until I lost it. I miss you. I miss us. I want to fix things." His words were soft. He looked down at his hands, a shadow of the confident man I once knew. He looked sad. I listened, but my heart felt heavy. A part of me wanted to believe him, to go back to the time when I trusted him without question. But I knew that time was gone forever. I looked at the trees, listened to the birds singing, and felt the wind on my face. I felt my own heart speaking to me, and this time I listened to it. I turned to him and said, "Liam, I loved you. I gave you everything I had, but you broke my trust. You chose someone else. I can't forget that." He looked up at me, his eyes filled with pain. I continued, my voice steady. "I deserve someone who respects me, someone who is sure about me, someone who doesn't lie." Liam didn't speak. He just looked at me. I said, "I can't stay in this relationship. I need to move on. I need to heal." He looked down again and whispered, "I understand." I stood up. My legs were shaking, but I felt a surge of strength. I looked at him one last time and said, "Goodbye." As I walked away, tears filled my eyes. My chest felt tight, but my heart also felt proud. I had made the hardest choice, but it was the right choice for me. That night I went home and cried again. But this time it was a different kind of crying. It felt like a release. I felt a little bit free. I didn't check my phone. I didn't wait for another message. I just allowed myself to feel everything. I let the pain wash over me like a wave, and slowly it began to recede. In the days that followed, I started doing the things I used to love again. I went to the park with a book. I started painting simple pictures at home. I listened to soft, hopeful music while I drank my tea. I practiced taking deep breaths. I walked slowly, noticing the world around me. I looked at the sky more often. I also started talking to myself with kindness. I would say, "You are strong, Ava. You are healing. You are not broken." I stopped asking what if and started asking what's next. I began to enjoy the small things again. A sunny morning, a quiet moment, the sound of the wind through the trees. Life felt different, but not entirely bad. Some days were still hard, but other days were peaceful. One day, I looked in the mirror and I smiled a little, not because everything was perfect, but because I was still here. I was learning to love myself again. I started to see that losing Liam was not the end. It was the beginning of something new. I was not the same person I was before. I was stronger. I was clearer. I knew what I wanted, and I knew what I would never settle for again. Weeks passed, and my days became a little brighter. I still remembered the pain, but it no longer controlled me. I stopped checking my phone for messages that would never come. I stopped replaying the past in my mind. I began to live in the present. I started waking up early to make tea and open my windows to the morning sun. I went for long walks after work. I smiled at strangers. I started spending more time with Chloe. We went to a small art museum one weekend, sitting on a bench and quietly looking at the paintings. I felt a deep sense of calm. We laughed about funny memories and talked about our dreams for the future. Chloe told me I seemed different now. She said I looked lighter. I told her I felt stronger. One Saturday, I went to the city library. It was quiet and warm inside, a perfect escape. I wanted to find a new book to read for the weekend. I walked between the tall shelves, running my fingers over the spines of the books. I spotted one on the top shelf, but I couldn't quite reach it. Just then, a gentle voice beside me said, "Here, let me help you with that." A man reached up, easily retrieved the book, and handed it to me. "Thank you," I said, feeling a little shy. He smiled. "No problem. I was actually reaching for the same one." I laughed softly. He had kind eyes and was wearing a simple green hoodie. He looked calm, like someone who also appreciated quiet places. "My name is Ethan," he said. I smiled back. "My name is Ava," I said. We started talking. We talked about books, about coffee, about our favorite quiet spots in the city. His voice was soft and his words were simple. He didn't ask too many questions or try to impress me. I liked that. That day, we sat on a bench outside the library and talked for a while. It felt easy and natural. I didn't feel nervous or scared. I felt peaceful. Over the next few weeks, Ethan and I met again. We got coffee. We walked by the river. Sometimes we just sat in comfortable silence. Other times, we talked about little things like the weather and movies. He told me he liked to paint, too. I mentioned that I used to paint, and he smiled, saying, "You should start again." I didn't tell him my whole story at first. I was still careful. My heart was still guarded. I was afraid of being hurt again. But he never rushed me. He never pushed for more than I was ready to give. He was just kind and patient. One day, while we were sitting in the park, he said, "You don't have to tell me anything you're not ready to say. I just enjoy spending time with you." A warm feeling spread through my chest. I looked at him and said, "Thank you." It was a simple phrase, but I meant it deeply. Later that night, I wrote in my journal. I wrote about how far I had come. I wrote about the pain I had survived and the strength I had discovered within myself. I also wrote about Ethan. I didn't know what would happen next, but for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful. Not because I had met someone new, but because I was finally happy with myself. One morning, I sat on my porch with a cup of tea. The sky was a brilliant blue and the air was fresh. I looked at the trees and smiled. I thought about the old Ava, the one who cried on her apartment floor, the one who felt irrevocably broken. I wanted to give her a hug. I wanted to tell her that she would be okay. If I could talk to the version of myself from a few months ago, I would say this: you are strong. You are enough. You don't need to stay with someone who hurts you. You don't need to beg for love. You will smile again. You will laugh again. You will feel free again. Just wait. The light will come back. And it did. Now I take things slow. I don't rush into love. I don't give my heart away too quickly. But I also don't live in fear. I believe that good people exist. I believe that healing is possible. I believe that I can start again. Ethan and I still talk. We still meet for coffee and walks. It is still new, but it feels honest. I don't know what the future holds, but I know one thing for sure. I will never lose myself for someone else again. I will always choose respect, peace, and a love that feels safe. Sometimes I still think about Liam. I sometimes wonder if he thinks about me, but I don't feel sad anymore. I don't feel angry. I have let it go. Carrying that pain only made me tired. Letting it go gave me my freedom back. I learned something incredibly important from all of this. I learned that losing someone does not mean losing yourself. I learned that heartbreak can be the start of something beautiful. I learned that I can create my own light from the darkness and find love after the pain. Life is not perfect now. Some days are quiet. Some days are still a little hard, but I wake up each morning with a sense of hope. I open my window, feel the air on my face, and say, thank you. Thank you for the lessons. Thank you for the healing. Thank you for this new beginning. This is not the end of my story. It is just the beginning of a new chapter written by me.